You have the MMR. We want it in 3 separate vaccinations, given at separate times. Together, there could be a possibility they're quite lethal, and separately, it looks like they are not at all lethal, but just very effective.
And I think I heard you say that the MMR vaccine for measles, mumps, and rubella is quite lethal. Is there any evidence of that?
What I've heard is that there are some people that say it is that way. And I say, well, let's say there's a 5% chance of it. Let's split it up. Because they do say that given individual, MMR, that given individual, there is no impact. In fact, they've said how safe it seems to be. But I've heard when you put them together, they can be explosive.
That's just not true.
To be clear.
I've studied. That's absolutely not true.
There is no medical evidence.
No study
to support what you just heard from the president.
None.
No medical evidence.
Bobby will say it.
To what he just said.
Bobby may be that person he's talking about, but nobody else has said that.
Physicians and scientists have said the single MMR shot is safe and effective, and breaking it up could leave children vulnerable to dangerous diseases for longer. President Trump yesterday also repeatedly suggested the number or timing of vaccines could play a role in rising rates of autism, despite scientific consensus and decades of studies that have firmly concluded there is no link.
But by the way, I just want to say, and we're going to go through all of this, I just want to say, I have a child that's on the spectrum. And this is something I have studied intensively, even talking to Bobby 25 years ago. Seen study after study after study. I've been looking at study after study after study, just like I've looked at study after study after study on diabetes. There is not a single relevant study. There's not a single legitimate study that suggests vaccines play any role in the rise of autism. If there were, I would have been telling you about it over the past 20 years. There's not one legitimate study. You know, there was a bogus study done for trial lawyers, which Bobby Kennedy is one, for trial lawyers that was published in Lancet. The end of the 90s, it was like 12 people. They all separated themselves from it because it was false. It was a scam. There's been, for the past 25 years, one after another, and they've all come to the same conclusion. To see that happening in the Oval Office yesterday,
oh my gosh,
is what everybody feared would happen when Bobby Kennedy Jr. was put into that position.
Yeah.
Guy who vaccinated all of his own kids. It's just, this is so stupid.
Yeah.
And it's so dangerous. And it spreads so much disinformation that now parents, because of the lies, because of the conspiracy theories, now there are parents out there that are going to be frozen in place because they heard this coming out of the Oval Office and not do what parents have done for generations to protect their children from terrible diseases.
So just having it all on the record here, several large studies spanning nearly 25 years provide fact checks for those claims by the president. One landmark study out of Denmark in 2002 followed more than 537,000 children born between 1991 and 1998. Another study done by Danish scientists in 2019 tracked more than 657,000 children. It found no increased autism risk from MMR vaccinations, including among children with a sibling history of autism. A study done here in the United States in 2015 followed over 95,000 children, including many high-risk siblings of kids with autism, and found no increased risk at any age. Another study last year out of Denmark focused on aluminum-containing vaccines, which includes the hepatitis B vaccine. It covered more than 1 million children and found no increased risk of autism or 49 other health conditions. The vaccine autism myth gained traction based on a 1998 paper in The Lancet by Andrew Wakefield. It was based on only 12 children. An investigative journalist reporting for the British Medical Journal found that Wakefield not only had falsified data,
He lied.
but he was funded by lawyers,
Trial
as Joe
attorneys,
mentioned,
like Bobby Kennedy Jr.,
who were
was a trial
preparing
attorney.
lawsuits against vaccine manufacturers.
They were doing it so they could sue vaccine manufacturers and make tens of millions of dollars.
In 2004, 10 of Wakefield's 12 co-authors retracted the paper's interpretation. 6 years later, Wakefield had his license to practice medicine revoked by the UK. Despite no medical evidence
Absolutely
to
none.
support the president's order, he made this claim about his new vaccine schedule.
You know, the expression is we have really no choice, and nothing bad can happen from what we're doing. Nothing bad can happen. It's possible it doesn't work. I don't think that's much of a possibility, frankly. We're going to learn a lot, and we could get, if we could go back 20 years, 25 years, something happened in between that would lead us to the kind of numbers that we're seeing.
But high vaccination rates in the United States, given on a medically recognized schedule, have prevented the spread of potentially deadly diseases. A study published in 2024 by the CDC found that for children born from 1994 to 2023, routine vaccinations prevented approximately 508 million cases of illness, 32 million hospitalizations, and more than 1.1 million deaths.
Willie, I really don't know where to start. I guess I'll start by saying something nice about the president, and that is, because of these conspiracy theories about vaccines, the president is afraid to admit to one of his best achievements in office, Operation Warp Speed, which was a vaccine that nobody expected to happen within a year's time. It was a remarkable scientific achievement. One of the most important scientific achievements probably of the last generation. But the president, talked about it one time with O'Reilly on stage and got booed by an audience that has been filled with misinformation for years. And that, what's so crazy really is before the vaccine, conservatives actually mocked and ridiculed hippies. Like in San Francisco, they call them hippies that were afraid of vaccines. Mm-hmm. They wanted to go all natural, baby. All natural, man. Just keep the vaccines away from me, dude. And we'd make fun of them. And you'd have states, the reddest states in America, would have the most success on preventing childhood health. You'd have states like Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas. They would not even have religious exceptions. No religious exceptions. You live in our state, your child's going to get this vaccine because we're not going to let your child get sick. All of that flipped because of conspiracy theorists. All of that flipped because of this pushback during COVID. It does. I know facts just don't matter to these people, so that's fine. That's fine. You know what? It's a free country. But the fact is that if you look at death rates, per capita rates of death per population, 9 of the top 10 states that suffered the most deaths were red states that voted for Donald Trump in 2024. New Mexico was an outlier. That was like number 9. But the other 9 states were red states. Again, all pursuing myths. So many people pursuing the myths spread by RFK Jr. before he was voted on by the Senate, before Cassidy turned this man loose on America's children. It is inexplicable. And yet we had that display yesterday in the White House And there's just no telling how much fear and confusion, heartbreak and illness that's going to cause in the future.
And we've already seen it, haven't we? Measles outbreaks across the country, diseases we thought we had kicked, flu outbreaks in the military because Secretary Hegseth says we're not doing the flu vaccine. And then when there was an outbreak of the flu, they said, actually, you should get the flu vaccine. We're already seeing it. And Joe, you made the point, which is this is the moment we just watched. That's the moment people have been fearing since the idea of Bobby Kennedy Jr. was even floated of running an organization that could control what goes into the bodies of our children or what does not because of the fear he creates around it. And there he was. It wasn't the margins of the internet anymore. It wasn't him spouting off on some podcast. It was him standing in the Oval Office and using President Trump as a vessel for some reason, his own enrichment, perhaps, whatever he's been banging the drum about over these last decades, using studies, as you pointed out so well there, Mika, that are based in nothing, the one that was paid for by trial lawyers. And every time you try to have a medical conversation with someone like Bobby Kennedy Jr., he reaches into his pile of papers and pulls out, why didn't you read the study from Kyrgyzstan in 1978 or whatever he can find? And it's when you hear the President of the United States talking about something as deadly serious as vaccines and saying, quote, well, I've heard, or some people say, that's not how we do medical research in this country. Generations of medical research have showed us that vaccines have saved lives. Of course, and the fact, John, that we even have to say this out loud, we do, is such a commentary and so damning about Bobby Kennedy Jr. and about what President Trump, I'm surprised, won't stand up to. And he's just letting Bobby Kennedy Jr. run roughshod over him and endangering children in this country. In the process.
This is deeply dangerous. And Trump himself has had periods in his pre-political life where he's danced around the edges of some conspiracy theories with vaccines. And he's embraced this now. And given, as you say, Bobby Kennedy, this platform, and to do it in the Oval Office, spouting nonsense, citing ridiculous studies